Welcome to Series 2 of Inside Imaginary Realism. In this series we will be interviewing artists who live in Australia and who paint or do other types of artwork within the visionary arts, surrealism or imaginary realism genres. So we really hope that you enjoy the show and are able to gain some insight into the worlds of these artists.
Is it important to you to create art that engages the viewer?
Emotional content, I feel.
I wouldn't say it's a primary focus for me, but it is definitely an important element because the reason that I create art is to bring things up in people, help people feel things that they've either haven't felt or suppressed. So yeah, to create those bridging elements, it's very important.
Yes, I try and create work that engages the viewer, whether that be negatively, positively, as long as the viewer is engaged at some point. It just means that the work is somewhat interesting or moving.
Inspiring in some way.
Yeah, or inspiring. Art that, there's many different ways of engagement, you know, whether that is emotionally, as you said, creating inspiration.
You know, a lot of your work I find is very culturally informative and it instigates new ways of thinking.
Because I find work that's very predictable, so flowers in a pot, it's like sometimes it's aesthetically beautiful, which engages the viewer, but sometimes it's just too obvious, and it doesn't, the viewer moves along quite shortly because it's just nothing to pull them in.
Absolutely. If art doesn't engage anyone, it becomes perhaps a bit pointless. I mean, I do believe in the creation of art sometimes just for the creative process, the way it can transform the artist. I think there's some value in that, but not as a consistent thing. If an artist never creates anything that doesn't engage anyone than themselves, I think that after a while that becomes kind of meaningless. It's kind of like a self-contained masturbatory bubble from the artist. If that's all an artist does, they have to create something that engages with other people.
It is important for me to create art that engages the viewer. The primary reason I've always created for myself. You know, when it comes down to it, I really believe if you want to sell art, you should really be creating it for the viewer. It's always a tough question. It's one of those questions in art that they always talk about. But for me, I've always created art for myself. You know, it's always been a healing for myself. I do it for me, and when other people really appreciate it, it makes me happy too. So, yeah, I make it for myself.
It's important to create art which is honest, and if you are sort of sincere in your art, if you're creating it from an honest place, and if you're really digging deep into yourself and finding the real kind of treasures within your own soul and sharing that, then that art will naturally resonate with other people, I think. And it's not necessary to strive to get a response from an audience or have that as a goal. That sometimes can be distracting, I think. But just to explore yourself and really go along the creative process as far as you can and discover what's really inside, you know, and that can be so much, I mean, it can be a lonely process in a way because you're on your own path as an artist, exploring yourself and your own psyche and, you know, digging deep inside. But then once you come out with those treasures, it's something which can really resonate in society, and people, you know, people want to see things like that, you know, things which touch their soul and really at the core of life. So, yeah.
To some degree, but mostly I'm just making art that excites me. And if it excites me, then I expect that other people will get excited by it too.
Do you think that creating art can rewire a person's way of thinking?
I believe so. I'm not a scientist, but I believe that, by creating art, we change the way that we're thinking symbolically. We begin to think more with imagery, and we begin to develop like a pattern recognition abilities. So we see things. We have a faster way of looking at patterns and seeing correlations and connections between things, and I think it helps to strengthen like neuro pathways in the brain, and it can be like a great therapy. Like, you know, Carl Jung spoke about making mandalas and how this really helps to create a kind of balance within the mind of people. So it's possible. I think it happens.
Going back to ancient humankind, the purpose of art was a magical act in order to have have an effect on reality, to cause change in alignment with intention.
Oh, absolutely. I think creating art can rewire a person's way of thinking. It's the creative process itself is putting things together. It's often using your experience, your thoughts, your emotions, the mental process, perhaps research that you've also engaged in, and bringing all these things together. So when you're in the act of producing art, you're bringing all these components together. You're actually putting them into a coherent structure, form, and you're delivering it onto the canvas. So, you know, that in itself is a process of changing a way of thinking. It's bringing coherency.
When you're creating art, you eventually get into more of an alpha brainwave state, which reduces stress and helps you be with yourself. And also the process of drawing accurately and painting something accurately, you've actually got to be able to see the simplicity of it, and you've actually got to be able to see what you are seeing, which most people can't do. Because when I'm teaching students, I just point out, like, that object over there is actually just a line, a circle and a triangle, you know, the shape of it. And they can't see what they are seeing, they can't see the simplicity of it. And when we can see what we are seeing, that it branches out into a lot of different things. I think if more people learn to draw or paint properly, politicians wouldn't get away with what they get away with, because people would be seeing what they are seeing.
I believe that art can rewire a person's thinking, definitely, in the way of it becoming sort of like a feedback loop. The more positive energy you put into your art practice, which you then surround yourself with, it propels you forward, and it kind of has like a snowball effect. And you'll look back a few years on, and then you'll find that you're a totally different person, that your own art has affected you in many positive ways.
Absolutely. I think creating art can rewire our very perception of reality. This work of mine is a good example of one of my own most intense experiences of perceptual shifts. from creating artwork because I engage with very intense, bright and iridescent colours in this work that I hadn't really explored before. I went very deeply into these colours, I was wishing to capture the iridescence of peacocks feathers, and I spent a lot of time just looking into peacock feathers themselves and trying to understand what was going on with the many refractions of light and colour and iridescence within this, and how that refracted on my perception of colour in general was amazing, because after many hours of working at the easel with these very intense kind of iridescent colours and layers of copper and silver leaf as well, and the way the light refracts through them, it began to affect my vision and my very perception of reality. I remember going out one night after many hours at the easel and staring at the sky, and it seemed as if each star in the sky had rings of colour around it, like different bands of colour, like they were all peacock eyes in the sky. And this was a really incredible vision. I hadn't taken any drugs or anything, and my immediate reaction was, after, wow, that's beautiful, my reaction was, this isn't real. There's not rings of bands of different colours around the stars, obviously. I'm hallucinating from staring at these bright colours and painting for hours and hours in the trance of that. So I closed my eyes, okay, what's really there? And then looked again at the sky. No, the bands of colours are still around each star, and I kept staring at them relentlessly until I realised that all those bands of colours actually were there and actually are there. And it's more that the process of the trance with colour and the investigation deeply of colour that I've been engaging with had allowed me to see these different bands of colour that were refracting out from the light of each star, whereas normally I wouldn't be aware of them, but they actually are there. So this was an intrinsic shift of perception in my reality as a result of creating art.
One other thing when teaching, I have noticed that the mind continuously likes to complicate things, and that as well can branch out into our life. And through drawing, you've got to see the simplicity of something, of the shapes, of the tone. Otherwise, you can't really draw it. And that also, in your mind, helps you cut through a lot of BS and get straight to the point of things. And not to make your life complicated or situations more complicated than they need to be.
Brings in a more a softer ability to have whole brain functioning.
Exactly, because it does as well balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain. That's if you are using technical ability with creativity, because of course the technical part is quite mathematical, very similar to music, which is very mathematical in a lot of regards.
I really enjoy that sense of bringing the left and right brain together in my practice, and I really find that that's it's somewhat of a slipping into the 0 point.
Can artists help change the world?
Yeah, art definitely can influence the world. I'm not sure of the president of what country, but yeah, the government approached him and was like, hey, so, we need more money for this war. Like, we need to cut the budget for the creative element of the city or whatever. And he's like, straightforward, like, then what are we fighting for? Like, if there's no art, there's no reason to do anything, basically, because it's how we share those things that, again, we can't put into words. Like, artists we have this unique ability where we can pull out and manifest the dreams and the ideas and the things that, yeah, nothing else can really bring forth. So, yeah, using that and making society aware of how powerful that is. Yeah, the world is our oyster. Like, just got to take the blocks and build them back in a more sustainable direction.
Art can present ideas or concepts that can help solve problems or help raise awareness of various issues. Do artists want to change the world? I'd say some of them do, some of them don't, obviously. But generally, artists, a lot of them do think outside of the mainstream paradigm. It's just the nature of the way they think. And therefore, like to see change and perhaps help see us implement concepts that might help improve society.
I'm passionate about art changing the world, and I think we can do this by bringing our voices to be heard through our art, no matter which medium or which genre, but just the beautiful ability of us to come together and to have an exhibition or to create art in its myriad of forms, you know, myriad of applications. So art can be, you know, something simple on the street that you see, or it can be something grand. You know, all those things contribute to changing the world. And if we listen and we look with those eyes of an artist, we're actually contributing to that change ourselves. So, and why would artists want to change the world? Well, we just have to reflect upon what is and how much change we actually need to bring in, you know. This is a world where it's changing rapidly, and you know, we are changing in so many ways, and so I feel my responsibility as an artist is to try to bring in that change, to be that voice where procreative change or evolutionary change is at its core, so it can inspire others, you know, with like 100 monkey effect.
The way I want to answer this is that one healthy cell. So it starts with the individual. If one person strives to be a healthy individual, to reach levels of clear conscience, no harm, just creative self-expression and meditation practice, they can set an example for many to adopt similar principles. So it's like the 100th monkey theory. If one person is a healthy cell and they shine the light to those who see what they've done, those others around them will start to see that there's something more, so they'll start to light up. And then those will see those, and so it will spread. So that one healthy cell can affect many.
When I seriously dedicated myself on my path as a visual artist, that was also parallel to my desire to cause positive change in the world, which means through my art I believed that I could help people, and in a very simple sense, that can simply be done through inspiration. inspiring people, not to do what I'm doing necessarily at all, but to live better, to contemplate certain subject matter, to help them in various ways, to have insights.
I think artists could change the world by changing themselves, working on their own stuff, and then the art can become an expression of whatever progress they've made. You know, I don't think art should be a kind of a tool for trying to change things necessarily, because everyone's got their own journey and their own sort of path to go, and I don't think that we need to sort of impede on other people or preach, you know, what we believe how life should be, but it's more about sharing our own perspective. And art definitely does have a power which can move and awaken people, and can give people an image of something which maybe words cannot, you know. So it has this power to bring to life an idea in a visual way, and that can be very powerful. But you know, everything we do really changes the world. You know, just being here is a change in the world.
When I was young, I saw a particular painting, or a few paintings that were painted by the masters, Australian masters actually, and it moved me. It woke something up in me that stayed with me for many, many years to come. And maybe 30 years after that, seeing that painting, which inspired me to be an artist, I saw that painting in the National Gallery, and it was such an amazing experience. Sorry. Just, yeah. So, what's it? Painting can really move you. Art can move the heart and affect a young person's life to the point where they realise what their purpose is and why they have to do that, which will be a driving force forever.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this week's program. This show was brought to you by Metro Television. And don't forget to check out the Visionary Arts Network Australia's website for more art and artists. visionaryart.net.au